Sega has had many mascots spread across all their systems, from the Master System all the way up through the Dreamcast. Between the obvious characters like Sonic, Knights, and Alex Kidd, to more obscure arguable mascots like Vector Man, Echo, Vice, Shinobi, and even Ulala, pretty much every Sega console's had their stable of awesome Sega-made characters. Now, of course, you may ask yourself, what about the Sega add-ons like the 32X or the Sega CD? Well, the 32X got the Chaotix team from Knuckles Chaotic, although it really was never around long enough to establish anything. The Sega CD also had a mascot from Sega, and I'm not talking about Sonic CD. No, Sega built a mascot that would truly appeal to the kids of the era. He had attitude, he was in your face, and he had no care for authority. Truly, a mascot built to last. Let me introduce you to the legendary Wild Woody.
Yes, this pencil with attitude was Sega's newest mascot attempt, and one they really believed in. They actually thought that Wild Woody at the time was going to be the guy to compete with Donkey Kong Country and other mascots of the time in 94-95. Unfortunately for Sega, public and critical reception was awful at best. I mean, it was really bad. Not only that, he came out very, very late in the Sega CD lifecycle and pretty much was immediately forgotten and basically shelved forever from Sega's memory and most of the gaming collective memory. But today on Hit Reset, I'm going to take the attempt to find the good in one of Sega's worst platformers ever made. Yes, maybe even comparable to Sonic 06 and other famous failed attempts from Sega. Of course, I made this in commemoration because I have a soft spot for Wild Woody personally, and I think it's time to really show Wild Woody in a bit more positive light, since given more time, this could have been a very creative game, actually.
Oh, you want to bring old Woody back in the limelight? This is quite a feat, trying to condense all of my sharp wit into one little video, though it's an admirable thing nonetheless.
What? How are you? Continue? Just continue talking, I guess.
Of course, I'm Wild Woody, star of the beloved Sega CD game, and I think it's time you get to the point.
Alright, well, you heard the pencil. Evidently, we're going to talk about Wild Woody and why this game was maybe not terribly awful, god, terrible bad. But one other thing I want to address really quick before we continue this review. You see, Wild Woody kind of has an issue with being really, really sexual without meaning it. And we're going to try to keep this from being too crass because this is already cheesy enough as it is for myself. So if at any point a sexual innuendo is released, I have an off-camera arm waiting to punch me in the face if at all possible. So just keep that in mind that we're going to try to keep this as very, very appropriate as possible. But I can't promise anything from him. Anyways, Wild Woody.
So, booting up Wild Woody actually brings me to my first positive, the cutscenes. Of course, I know you can just watch them all on YouTube without having to play the game, but this is a great game to play during a hangout with fellow gamers with a drink and chips in hand, so the point still stands. Either way, the cutscenes are so much a time capsule of the times of the 90s that it's just hilarious today. Regardless of whether you see it as a near parody of gaming mascots at the time, or as just the tip of the iceberg of trying too hard, the CGI, the writing, or the dude, Joesph Kerska, delivering every over-the-top line, it's really hard not to laugh back, whether it's due to nostalgia or just from laughing at what exactly companies and people thought was hip and cool during the times.
Whoa, big fella! You got a name, Leadhead?
Call me Woody.
Wild Woody!
The story, as it goes, is an unnamed adventurer brings back a cursed totem pole that is awoken by a random circumstance, and the 5 pieces make parallel universes. The bottom of the totem, named Low-Man, creates Woody to go in and round them back up before they cause the entire universe to collapse and explode. These worlds are standard fare: pirate, mythical, mechanical, sci-fi, and horror. So now it's up to you and Woody to find the totem pieces and bring balance back to the universe. So once the game starts, let's just address the rough edges since they're pretty apparent right from the get-go. The game is a basic platformer, though many of the levels have a maze-like design, so there'll be a bit of exploring throughout, and you can get lost at times, but it never gets too bad. There are usually arrows pointing you in the right direction, so you can kind of get a feel for where you're trying to go. However, as you know, jumping on enemies is a big part of most platformers, and this is where the game can get a little bit dicey. The controls are really stiff, so making good precision jumps is kinda difficult, and the collision detection for the enemies can be beyond frustrating. Many times you're gonna need pretty much perfect accuracy to have Woody land on the enemies and kill them by rubbing one out.
Oh, no!
Ha! This is almost as good a sketch as I can doodle.
Right. Anyways, a lot of the deaths in this game will be caused by an enemy you just can't seem to connect with and erase and destroy. However, you have a pretty large health bar, and there are plenty of health items, so again, even though it's not specifically designed well, it keeps you from getting too frustrated or really noticing it too poorly. However, a very cool gameplay element in this game is the sketch pad. Throughout the game, you'll collect sketches, and these sketches become items and things that you can draw that help you clear out enemies, reach high places, or just move faster. Not only that, but Woody shrinks from use after each sketch, which not only limits how many sketches you can use at any given time, but it plays into letting you into certain places not normally accessible when Woody is at full length. These smaller crevices usually hide good power-ups or new sketches. There is also an item that you can find throughout the stages that'll allow Woody to grow back to full size and allow you to use sketches. Oh dear.
You were totally thinking it, you dirty boy. Hey, I didn't write myself into this sketch.
Now, this game is by no means a graphical powerhouse, and while the normal levels and enemies are kinda meh, the boss battles look awesome. They may be easy, but they just feel very epic. It does get you a little bit hyped a bit, especially after some of the levels can kinda drag on. Not only that, the bonus stage also has a cool pseudo 3D view, but to show you that, I have to address single-handedly the best part of Wild Woody. Listen to this.
Say it.
Wild Woody has one of the most underrated soundtracks in the history of Sega games. This soundtrack covers so many genres, is so balls-to-the-wall crazy that I couldn't wrap my head around how something this insane and imaginative came from some random Sega CD game. From boss music with goofy lyrics,
Well, yo ho ho, and a yumpity dum. My IQ is very low. I'm a pirate and I'm dumb. Well, I might be hiding in a barrel in the dark, or I walk it out.
to neoclassical music, the aforementioned bonus level, the music just matches the tone, spans so many tastes, and just sounds like a Genesis composition brought to life by a full band. So, how did such an insane soundtrack come to life? I went straight to the source, the composer of the Wild Woody soundtrack, Ron Thale, aka Bumblefoot, to find out exactly how this soundtrack came to be.
I think they sent me a CD that had some kind of multimedia on it for me to look at, and I needed to just get a vibe for the game, so I was like, pirate ship stuff. I was thinking just very bouncy yo-ho-ho kind of things. And for the mechanical stuff, things that were a little more industrial sounding. Cemetery, very neoclassical. So it was really the themes of the game itself that I was using to guide how I was going to make the music. I had to, there were 28 pieces of music, maybe more, and I had a month to do it, so that meant every day I had to have a song for that video game written, recorded, and on a cassette in the mail to the West Coast, to those guys to check out and make sure it was cool. And so after everything was done, I flew out to the studios in San Francisco, and we tracked stuff with the drummer for a day, and then we started mixing. And they had this one gadget that they wanted to use. And this was before surround sound and things like that, but they had this thing that made it feel like surround sound. It would make the audio, whatever you put through it, sound like it was spiraling around the room, going left to right, but also sort of forward and backward, away from you and toward you. So they wanted to use that on a few things, so we did that. And spent 2 days just fooling around and mixing and getting it all together.
So there you have it. Now you know the thought process, the insane schedule, and just the passion that went into this soundtrack. It's a soundtrack that can truly push you through some annoying or tough parts of the game and get you really amped up to keep playing through that next so bad it's good 90s CGI cutscene. The game isn't very long. It's only 5 worlds at 2 stages apiece and a boss fight. The boss fights, as I said, are pushovers, and the final boss is really strange and completely anticlimactic as you just guide this weird monkey ghost around trying to get him to flush a toilet with his paddle until the totem piece falls out. Trust me, this game is fucking weird.
Once you flush the toilet, you get your generic ending with, of course, that really cool 90s thing where you're totally aware that you're a video game.
Thanks again, Woody. I'll see you next time the world needs saving. Yeah, only if we sell a zillion units.
How cute. A sequel.
Hey, get to the point there. I'm getting a bit tipped off here. It sounds like you don't really like my game at all.
I know it may not sound like it, but honestly, I do. It's a complete guilty pleasure. You see, there are a lot of things wrong with the game. It's bad, don't get me wrong, but it's never, like, unplayable or broken or, like, not enjoyable, if that makes sense. It's bad. It's bad. But there's a lot of so bad it's good moments and so much weird, quirky 90s-ness that it actually really works, and I kind of love it.
The so bad they're good cutscenes, the incredible soundtrack, some of the mechanics like the sketching involved, the guys who made you in this game were obviously having a hell of a time. Even though they knew the game was being sent to die, it was released in '95 for the Sega CD when the CD was pretty much all but dead and the PlayStation 1 had come out. They still worked on it with love and did all kinds of dumb stuff, like hide mermaid boobs and then wait till years later to tell everyone they did it in a magazine. That's crazy.
Huh? Well, gee, that sure is a nice thought, Gunstar, but this is not at all the point I wanted made. I wanted to write my comeback here. I wanted to sketch out a new path.
Just stop it! Stop it! Stop it! I get it. You're a pencil. Oh, God. Look it. You're trying too hard. And weirdly enough, even though you're totally a toot of the 90s, you were still really charming. Like, everybody was trying to be like Sonic at the time in the 90s. Everybody wanted toot and that 90s feel, but not you. Well, kind of not you. You see, like, somebody like Bubsy got made in a marketing meeting. Bubsy was totally like, how can we get the kids to think we're hip and cool? But you, no. The only way you got made is by somebody being on something, or somebody really thinking a pencil mascot was, like, awesome to them. Like, this is totally unique vision. And that's why I like you, because everything about you may be poorly chosen, but charming in the way that it really seems passionate.
You're right. Look, thanks for taking me back. It was fun, and hey, at least someone remembers good old Woody.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I like you, Woody. And, you know, no matter what, you'll always be my leadhead.
Don't ever try that again.
All right, well, anyways, right, you should really check out Wild Woody. I know it may seem like I'm kind of been harsh on it, but really, it's a fun game to play if you're in the right mood for it. And it's really fun to play with friends and see who breaks first and makes a sexual innuendo about how you got a Woody from Wild Woody.
Wow, I think you knocked him out. This has all gotten rather pointless, though. Hey, don't go!
Hey guys, Gunstar here. Thanks once again for watching another one of the Hit Reset episodes. Just a couple of quick things. Once again, if you like what you're seeing on here, you should check out more of SegaBit's awesome content and consider subscribing to them. The video playing right now is another This Is Saturn episode from Liam about Puyo Puyo Sun, one of my favorite puzzle series. You may know it better as Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine or Kirby's Avalanche, or maybe you just know it as Puyo Puyo, but either way, it's a cool look at one of the best versions of this for the Saturn. On the flip side, if you want to check out more of my stuff, you can come over to my YouTube channel. The video you're checking out right now is the Sega CD Sports retrospective video look at. Most of them are upports of Super Nintendo and Genesis games, but there's also some really odd, quirky titles that show up in here too. So if you're into Sega CD or you're into sports games, definitely come over and check it out. Or if you're into Sega in general, want to check out even all of my other videos, go for it. Finally, I want to just thank once again Joesph Kerska, Bumblefoot, and everybody else who's taken the time to do interviews, to do footage, voice work, whatever for this video.